Hello my friends, and welcome to my annual Christian fiction book recommendations video. This might be my 5th year doing this. It's close. If it's not my 5th, it's really close. So every summer I share some of my favorite Christian fiction books that I've read, and the last 2 Januaries I've been doing a collab video with a bunch of other booktubers that also come and share some of their Christian fiction book recommendations. So if you're here for those kinds of book recommendations, which I'm kind of assuming you are, I have you covered. I will leave links below to the previous years and the collab videos, so hopefully you get a whole bunch of great book recommendations from this video. Funnily enough, I don't have a physical copy of any of the books on the list this year. I've really leaned into the ebooks, so that's what I have to share. My qualifications for the books on this list is they are written by Christian writers, they're fiction, they have some strong faith elements, and I have decided over the years, I don't know if this has been every year, but I don't include science fiction or fantasy on these lists. This is just kind of contemporary or historical, more realistic fiction than science fiction or fantasy. I have lots of other recommendations for those kinds of books, but we will be keeping it to, I'm just looking at my list here. I only have 1 historical, the rest are contemporary, and I actually do own one of them, but now that I realized it's downstairs and I'm too lazy to go get it, so we will just put up pictures for all the books. I'm also not including any rereads, because if I'm rereading a book, that generally means I love it and I've shared it in a previous year's video. So let's get into this. My first book is a Jamie Jo Wright book, which I'm guessing she's probably been featured in every video. I don't know if I had started reading her in my first one, but ever since I started reading her books, she's been featured. She is writing like 2 or 3 books a year at this point. Hard to keep up with her. And so the favorite of the one that I read this year is Spectres in the Glass House. This one came out in October. She usually does October and April for releases, and then now she's also doing some love-inspired suspense books as well. So in this one, we are dual timeline, as most of her books are. We're in 1921 and then present day. So in 1921, we're with this young woman whose mother passed away. I think it was a few years before, and then her father has recently passed away. He owned a brewery, and she is moving into their house in the country. The house in the country is kind of where her mom hung out. Her mom was an artist. She preferred that home, and she did a lot of renovations to the home. It's a little bit quirky as a result, but murders start occurring shortly after our main character gets there, and there's always a bunch of dead butterfly bodies around where the murder occurred. And there is a greenhouse that her mother really loved that is full of butterflies, and she's trying to figure out what's going on here. Jamie Jo Wright's books always feel very ghosty. I feel like she writes a lot like Kate Morton, but hers are explainable, which I really appreciate because that's much more realistic. There's also a present day timeline. There is a woman that is coming to this same home as a research assistant to write a biography, and she's kind of uncovering a lot of the events that took place in 1921 as she goes. So I always appreciate both of her timelines. I'm not generally a dual timeline person, and I usually prefer one over the other, but I do appreciate how she kind of weaves them together. Okay, my next one is called Secondary Target by Angela something Carlisle. This was actually recommended in one of the booktuber Christian book recommendation collabs It sounded interesting, so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it. And it's the first book in a series, The Secrets of Kincaid. I think the second book is just out or just about to come out. In this one, we follow a woman. She owns an outdoor store, which is really cool. She does a lot of like adventure-y stuff and supplies, that kind of thing, which is really cool because we have friends back where we used to live that own a store like that. So I felt like I could kind of visualize it. Like a lot of main characters, she has a bit of a backstory. Years before her mother and brother were murdered, it was like a break-in or a robbery or something. And so her and her dad had moved. And at the start of the book, things are starting to happen. She starts to become targeted. Her father goes missing. Unfortunately, and I will say this for all the books on here that are in the romantic suspense genre, I struggle, and I'm going to talk about this too in my reading wrap-up for July as well, but I really struggle when it's a romantic suspense book and there's zero suspense in the romance. As soon as you see the main female character and the main male character, 99% of the time you know, okay, we know how this is going to end. So there is a man from her past that comes into play. Yeah, I'll try not to like moan about that too much on the books that kind of follow that very stereotypical plot line, but I really did enjoy the whole mystery behind this one. Very different genre. We've just got like contemporary women's fiction. Robin Jones Gunn has started a new series called The Suitcase Sisters, and the first book is Tea with Elephants. I loved it. So we follow these women that are like late 30s, early 40s or so, and when they were teenagers, they met at a missionary, was it like a missions trip or something like that? And they always wanted to travel together and do missions, and life didn't work out that way. Neither of them have had like major, huge life problems, but the one gets free tickets to go to Kenya for, I don't know, like 10 days or something, first class everything, and invites her friend along. And they both have very realistic, relatable struggles in life. Nothing too out there, but just kind of normal, everyday struggles, I feel like. And it was so fun to see them going to these different places in Africa. As someone that like, that was always a continent that just called to me. I feel like God was leading us to adopt from there, and that's why I always loved Africa. The only thing I couldn't relate to in this book is the fact that they did everything first class. So when I travel, it's like, even if I had a ton of money, I want to kind of go as cheap as I can within reason so I can do more. So that part wasn't relatable, but it was, they had some great conversations, saw some great wildlife. It felt like being in Africa with a friend. So I highly recommend it, and I'm excited to read the next book in that series. Then I read Facing the Dawn. Okay, this one's a little bit of a gut punch. There's a point where I was like, okay, does everything bad have to happen to this woman? But there are some really good faith elements and conversations that occur throughout this book. So our main character, her husband left years before, but not like left. He just went to go dig wells in Africa. They're still married and doing okay, but not really, because she's struggling. Her oldest son has, I don't know, been in jail. I think I don't know if he was selling drugs or just, I don't know exactly, but he got caught with some drugs, so he's got a probation officer. Her second oldest became pregnant, I think at the age of like 16-ish, and then she's got her child that's kind of her little bit of light that has no problems, in quotation marks. And right at the beginning of the book, she's very bitter towards her husband. She's trying to put on a brave face. She's trying to tell him it's okay, but really she's struggling and she's a bit bitter. And he dies at the beginning of the book. And then other things start happening. And she just gets like one life blow after another. And it was hard. It was heavy. It was hard. Some major trigger warnings in this book. Maybe look some stuff up if you maybe would have some trigger warnings, but it was worth it. I think it was well done. It was just hard. Then last month I read The Way It Should Be by Christina Suzanne Nelson. 2 for 2 with her books. Each one that I've read has ended up on this list. Need to keep reading more. This one also, like, this was a little bit of a gut punch for me just because it felt very real. So we follow 3 different people. 2 of them are twin sisters that have gone on very different paths. One has gone the kind of downhill spiral route, and she is a drug addict. And then her twin sister's gone the other way and is trying to be as perfect as possible, pretty much. And then we follow a woman whose daughter got into drugs and then died years before. And that woman starts to help the drug addict sister, the good sister. I don't know. I don't remember names, and I don't know how to like accurately describe them. Just got married a month before, and then she gets a phone call. She didn't realize that she has a niece and a nephew, that her sister had kids, and they end up going into care, and her husband take them in. And I just felt like I had some PTSD with like first days with foster kids and just the whole foster care system. I unpacked it a little bit more in my June reading wrap-up video, so I'll leave that linked as well, because if you want to know more details and how it like affected me personally, just because we've been in the foster care system for almost 6 years now, there was a lot of good things. I feel like it was very realistic, very well done. And then in some ways it made me annoyed, but that's mostly just due to our own situation, not really the book. I think she did a great job with the book. And then I've got 2 more, and this is kind of spoilery in the fact that I read them both in July. So I will share more of them in my reading wrap up, but you haven't heard me talk about them yet. So the first one is Girl Lost by Kate Angelo, I think. This one just reminds me so much in very broad terms of D. Henderson's O'Malley series, because in this one we follow, this is the first book in a series, and so I'm assuming we're going to be following people that are part of this group. This man started this group, I forget his name. I forgot it when I was doing my reading wrap up about it too, and I think his name is Stryker. Yeah, so this man, Stryker, started this group called the Warriors, where he takes delinquents and delinquents to be, and he brings them into his mixed martial arts gym. He kind of trains them, takes them under his wing, and then there's like local law enforcement that also works there. So he's getting the delinquents to learn to work out beside these law enforcement. And our main character, there's 2 main characters, a man and a woman. They were part of this program the first time it ran, and they both one became CIA, one became some kind of special agent. And I'm assuming we're going to be following other people from their year. And so it has those O'Malley vibes as far as like found family from difficult situations. The O'Malleys were a foster care situation, and it just very much felt like that, but yet the stories are very different. So our main character, Luna, she is coming back to town after 20 years away. She got pregnant as a teenager, and Stryker put up her baby for adoption, or did a private adoption. He's the only one that knows where her kid is, like that link. She's going to meet him, and as she is at the restaurant and sees him pull up, he actually gets kidnapped. And so she's investigating that. The guy that she was dating as a teenager, the father of her baby, is also involved. He was also part of this program, and he has a case where there's like a missing teen. So there's just all these different aspects. It went in like a very interesting way. I felt like it was very unique. I don't want to say too much more. Great faith conversations as well. I'm very excited for this series. Definitely in for it, even though the romantic part was zero suspense. And then the last one I just finished, it's called Fire Mountain by Dana Mentink, I think. And this one is also very unique because our main character is a female truck driver. And right at the opening of the book, she just wakes up after a crash. She was doing her last haul because the mountain that she's on is a volcano and it's about to erupt, and they've been evacuating all the people. Pretty much everyone's evacuated. She comes to, she has a bit of a concussion, doesn't really remember the previous 24 hours. There is a bloody handprint on her passenger door with bullet holes. And this guy comes to the truck to see if she's okay because he apparently saw it crash. Even though it's supposed to be cleared out, I guess he was around. And as things are kind of going on, they're like the volcano's doing its thing, they realize that there is a baby strapped into her rig, which she has no memory of. And they start to get chased by people. Obviously, people want the baby and some information, and thus the book ensues. They are trying to get off the mountain, get to civilization, but stay hidden, keep a baby alive. That's a hard thing to do when you're on a mountain that's shooting out like poisonous ash, and you know, running for your lives and trying to keep a baby quiet and fed and diapered. I felt like it was a very unique premise, even if there was zero suspense as far as the romance went. The whole like female truck driver, random baby who just gets called Tater Tot the whole time because they don't learn her name is funny. I've never read any books by her before, but I'm definitely intrigued. I think this is also going to be a series. It's Elements of Danger, I think is the series name. So I'm looking forward to reading more there. And that wraps up my Christian fiction favorites that I've read in the last year. There are some books I really wanted to put on here by some of my favorite Christian authors, but there wasn't really any faith elements in them. I also read lots of good science fiction and fantasy that I feel like it's like a different ball game. So different video for that. I would love to hear some of your guys' Christian fiction favorites. I didn't read much from, I don't know, last summer until January. I feel like I've read all of these since January, except maybe Spectres in the Glass House. And now I'm starting to get to know some new Christian authors that I'm enjoying. So I would always love your guys' recommendations. If you want more, like I said, check out my previous year videos, check out the collab videos. I'll have those all linked below. And like always, just leave me your recommendations. Thanks for hanging out with me.